Woo! The notification just went across my screen, baby. And when I get that notification, it only means one thing: that we are live. Tonight, we're going to do this a little differently. If you're here for a tech talk, this is not the stream for you. Come back on Friday. We are not talking tech tonight. Letting y'all know right now, this is not a technical discussion. I don't want y'all to be upset. And as you see by the title, we're not here to talk about tech. We are here to talk about YouTube and its upcoming apocalypse that we are in the midst of again. At the center of it, Vox Media again. It seems like they hate YouTube, but you know, I don't know. Like, I got somebody here tonight that's better with this than all of me. I got the commentary guru himself, Paulie G, Paul Gross. So what's up, bro? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Viper? Thanks so much for having me on the live stream, dude. When you reached out to me to talk about this, I was like, I have to get on. So like, I hopped in the shower because I haven't showered in like 3 days because I've just been editing. So
I don't know if we need to know all that, but okay, all right.
I got to do it for the vibe.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I mean, like you are one of, like, if something's going on YouTube, I'm like, where's Paul at? Where's the video at? I need to talk to Paul because you usually are on top of these things. So let's get into this, man. So, oh man, where do we begin?
Do you even want to like begin like with the history of Vox? Like they've been like copy striking tons of creators. Like even I know we're not talking about tech and stuff, but like they were copy striking like John and everything back in the day. And like I feel like Vox, here's the problem with the media companies. They're a dying source of news.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they make more money because of clicks. That's the difference between the US and the news in the UK. That's the difference between British and American comedy right there. Because like in Britain, stuff is paid by the government, whereas in America, like CNN and Fox, they get paid by the clicks. So they want to have crazy, outrageous titles to get you to click on the stuff. And that's the problem with places like Vox, because they're going for the outrage culture. And that's exactly what YouTube is right now. But what's crazy about what Vox is doing right now with what's his name? Carlos Mazda or whatever.
Martha, yeah.
Yeah. What's crazy is that they're criticizing people like Steven Crowder and YouTube for doing the same exact things that they do. Because they're like, YouTube is creating monsters like Steven Crowder because he's engaging. Literally, you're trying to grow on the same exact platform. If anything, they're trying to change the platform more than anyone like a Steven Crowder. I think that YouTube's doing the best that they can do to try and regulate a lot of the crazy conspiracy theories, even though the rabbit holes are fun back in the day. But like, there's YouTube's going to end up becoming crushed by the culture because people on the one side of things are going to want YouTube to go extremely censored, and then on the other side, they're gonna destroy YouTube for going censored. So the community is gonna end up eating itself alive, and that's the thing I'm really scared about.
Yeah, like I think it's funny because when Roberto Blake said about a month ago, the golden age was over, I was like, what are you talking about? But this is exactly what he was talking about. Like the age of truly free speech and everything like that is fastly coming to an end with this outrage culture. And like you just said, this Vox dude is trying to chastise Steven Crowder for doing the same stuff that he's done himself. Like Steven Crowder highlighted, the dude made like countless videos going after that political dude. Like, so you're doing the same things that you're accusing Steven Crowder of doing, but because of whatever he's getting you in your field, now that's a problem. And now, I think the thing that really pisses me off about this whole situation is that if Steven Crowder was doing this to me, we would hear nothing about this. But since this dude worked for Vox, oh, now we got to get our titties in the bunch. Oh, it's a big deal because he worked for Vox. Oh my God. And that is what pisses me off, man.
It's crazy too because it's a joke. Like that's the problem. Like in context, where does it end? And you're right. Just because it's a Vox reporter, this is even a story that we're talking about. Because it's the end of literally being able to say anything without getting ridiculed.
The stuff that this Vox reporter for accusing Crowder of happens every damn day on the platform, yet we hear nothing about it. But because this dude works for Vox Media and Vox has their own agenda, now all hell breaking loose. Like, I don't want to hear it.
And the craziest thing about the whole swatting, and then not the swatting, but like the doxing that was supposedly going on by Steven Crowder. So like he's saying that Steven Crowder's trying to get his people to dox.
Right.
When he's not supporting that. And the funniest thing about the whole situation is that Carlos, I keep forgetting his name, he tweeted on Twitter a screenshot of all of the messages that he got. So essentially he doxed everyone that was attacking him. So like,
no, the funny thing is when he showed the screenshot of those messages, he said everybody started attacking me and blowing up my phone with the same message to bait Steven Crowder. Buddha, do you really think everybody gonna contact you with the same damn message? Do you think we're that dumb? Are we a joke to you, Carlos? Are we a joke to you, Carlos? Stop it, ridiculous. Oh my God!
Now, okay, I want to mention something that Roberto said in the thing here. He said it isn't as much about Vox reporter, and it's more about him being a combination of a gay person and he's minority. Obviously, as a society, we protect minorities, and that's a good thing because obviously, we haven't always been in a more equal state, so we got to protect minorities. The problem is when you give an unfair advantage and like you suppress people because they're not a minority. And that's where the problem arises, because YouTube right now is in a sticky situation where if they start taking essentially every, conservative, quote unquote, I don't want to get political here, but if YouTube's really trying to take off every single solitary conservative comedy channel on YouTube, they should be also, not letting the slander and the stuff going on about, the Trump stuff. Like, I'm not a Trump guy, but like there's such a double standard just because of the political leaning. And YouTube is a platform, so they have every right to ban certain people off the platform. YouTube had every right to ban Alex Jones, but should they have banned Alex Jones? I don't completely know that they should have, because he's a person that's creating content and YouTube is supposed to be able to broadcast yourself. Where do you draw the line? And that's my problem.
The problem, like Steven Crowder highlighted, is that if you ban him or take him off the platform, then essentially you should probably be taking off the platform Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and all these other late night talk shows that do the same thing that this dude does, and they probably do it. They actually make jokes towards the actual president of the United States, but nobody says nothing about this. But all of a sudden, this Vox Media dude gets all of his panties in a bunch, and now we got a problem. And Roberto's like, it's not about him being a Vox reporter, but it really is, though. Because like I said, if he wasn't an employee of Vox, if he didn't have the Vox name behind him, would we be talking about this? I don't think so.
Nope. And that's what's so scary about just commentary in general. Being able to say anything about anyone. The time to be able to say anything is really dead. Like I said this on Twitter, but I would not be surprised if in 5 or even 10 years down the line, the form of commentary, on political or not, is going to drastically change. I think a lot of the main commentators right now are going to be completely deplatformed, because we're even seeing that with YouTube trying to protect everyone in hate speech. The problem with hate speech is that it's subjective, and there is no line between what hate speech is and what hate speech isn't. And that's in the comments. Like, you're going to get hate in the comment section. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, if you're offended, you're offended. It doesn't really change anything.
So let me go back to meet Roberto halfway here. I am not saying that it is right to like call somebody out of their name or make fun of people like that and all that stuff. That stuff is wrong. What Steven Crowder did and the way he went about it is wrong. But this is really so much bigger than what it should be. Like,
exactly.
I'm telling you, like, this would not be what it is right now if Carlos Mazur was not an employee of Vox. I can't stress that enough. Like, yes, Steven Crowder is wrong, but would we really be talking about banning him from the platform and demonetizing him if this dude that he was going after wasn't an employee of Vox? And Roberto wants to come in. I'm gonna let him come in, but it's interesting. But I don't think this is a thing if he's not an employee of Vox. But I'm not saying that what Steven Crowder did was right, because he was wrong too. But,
yeah, because what he said was obviously insensitive. But where does the line go between one person getting mad and another person not getting mad? So like there's a never-ending line, and where does it end? And YouTube has every right to censor and whatever, but I can disagree with how they go about that.
Yeah, and now we got YouTube sweeping across the board, like deleting all these channels, even legitimate channels that have like hate speech or something in them. They're getting them off the platform or demonetizing them because of these changes in the policy. Now it's kind of funny because all these channels getting demonetized today have nothing to do with what's happening with Steven Crowder and Carlos Mazur. It just happened to coincide on the same day that this is going on, that this blew up. So now everybody's like trying to link the two, and they're not really linked, but it's YouTube and their terrible timing. And like I said, YouTube could have flushed this down the toilet at the ground level if they would have just took care of the issue with Steven Crowder and Carlos Marza to begin with, instead of like ignoring it and trying to like make it go away or wish it went away. They could have just put some type of restrictions or punishment for Steven Crowder right then and there. Then this might not even be as big as it is. But since YouTube did nothing about it, and they even said in the tweet that whatever he did didn't violate their policies, and actually it didn't, but at the same time, it's clear that he's targeting like hate and homophobic slurs at this man. So you should have been able to do something. I mean, it is your, like Paul said, it's a private platform. So basically YouTube could do what the hell they want. They change the rules all the time. So if they felt like Steven Crowder was out of line, they could have did something at the ground level before it swelled up. But they waited till it swelled up, and now we got a bigger problem.
Exactly.
What's up, Roberto?
Hang on, let me adjust.
I was like, you jumping in.
Yeah, let me adjust the settings here. Hang on.
But yeah, Paulie G, that's the thing.
There we
like,
go.
This should not be as big as it is, but it is.
Oh, yeah. It actually should be as big as it is, and it should be bigger because y'all are missing a big piece of the puzzle.
All right, let's go then.
All right, go for it. Please enlighten me.
Remind me what happened and put creators in crisis 60 days ago.
Let's see what happened 60 days ago. Like Paul was saying earlier, we had the whole copyright thing that was happening.
Nope. That's not the one.
That's not the one. Man, so much, Roberto. I can't keep up.
YouTube, wake up. Remember that, guys? Remember?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that was more than 60 days ago, right? That was at the beginning of this year. That was in February, right?
That was about roughly 60 days ago. 90 tops, but like I think about 60. But anyway, okay. YouTube, the fallout from that we saw is still ongoing.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Algorithmic shifts that happened. Comments being taken away from creators who did nothing wrong, had nothing to do with it.
Which is insane in its own right, considering a lot of the big commentary channels got their comments deleted just because there were quote-unquote predatory comments. And it's only just now getting resolved.
But why did they have to do that?
You got to please advertise them.
Because how many people wanted, like, I mean, I have a business, so I could leverage this and just sell stuff, and I can, get sponsors and I can do all these things, right? How many creators, most creators, big or small, and how most creators get their start to transition out of their 9-to-5 job to be full-time creators is by what means?
AdSense, probably.
AdSense.
Which is not super smart,
but it is the first step for a lot of people, especially younger people like yourself, Paul, who have less options available to them, and also people who work a 9-to-5 job who are trying to transition. YouTube's first and foremost obligation is to incentivize more people to make more content and better quality content on the platform. And the leverage and incentive for that is advertiser money. And advertisers are beholden to headlines because headlines affect publicly traded companies. Shareholders are fiscally conservative. They're usually also socially conservative, ironically enough, not to get super political, but you got to think about this. The irony is you have to understand and appreciate the irony here. People who are fiscally conservative also typically are more right-leaning, who also usually are people from both the left and the right, have the money, if they're at the top 1% of the country, to invest in publicly traded companies, your Googles, your Facebooks, your this, your that, all of it, the tech, but also the consumer companies, your McDonald's, your Samsungs, your Apples, all these things that give us ads that let us do what we do. So if you go round robin, and I know this is taking a minute, but if you think about this whole thing, Vox is owned and is parent company to a traditional media conglomerate. Traditional media, same people that own Fox News, NBC, MSNBC, and everything like that. There are 6 big media conglomerates that own all the subsidiary companies, right? All of them, and they all play ball together. By the way, they're competitors, but they're also kind of like a cartel. Kind of like a cartel. Yeah. So you have the media able to put pressure on advertisers because they control information and headlines, and then that affects all these social media platforms. And the mainstream media has every reason, every time there's a Facebook privacy issue, every time there's an Apple thing, every time a YouTuber fucks up, negative, massive, hundreds of headlines. And that's not good for us. And it's not great for the advertisers. But you know what the advertisers end up doing? The budget has to go somewhere because the allocation has already been made. And lo and behold, here we are, traditional media, with all of these things that you're used to, that, you know, a fiscally conservative person is going to say, let's just move the budget over here. It's got to go somewhere. So if you understand that part of the equation, here's what YouTube's in a rock and a hard place. It's not about I have to censor conservatives. It's a weird coincidence, and it's a thing that the most outspoken free speech rogue type of in-your-face people, which we do need in society, by the way, are also the firebrands for what brings negative press a lot of times, because you cannot, even though politically people like to, hey, don't build a wall, don't keep people out, don't cut people off, don't detain people, is not as inflammatory and not as negative a thing, even though it's the direct opposite of build a wall, detain people, yay ICE. It's like, if you think about those things, even though they're opposite things, we don't have the same visceral reaction normally to one as we do the other. And that's part of the problem with the dichotomy of just the left and the right, is it ignores the nuance of language, because the nuance of language screws up commentary channels. Paul, you remember what you talked about when you left tech, about the channel cluster that you were in, and about how algorithmically that's an issue? Whether you're a middle of the road, moderate, or libertarian person, you get screwed over by the left and the right when they go to extremes. Moderates, independents, and libertarians and third-party alternative news sources get screwed algorithmically by extremists on the left and the right every single day in this platform, and nobody cries for them, even though they're one of the most important voices that are truly suppressed. Is the people who are either very middle of the road or apolitical or don't give a shit. But no one cries for them because they're not big enough voices and they're not a majority party, and no one cries about it. But someone from the left or right does something, but the other reason is it gets attention and gets pressed. And the problem with YouTube, in my opinion, is the ruthless corporate guy in me is like, YouTube shouldn't get rid of Crowder because of politics or even because of this issue. They should get rid of him because if I was scoring a risk, you know how they do risk analysis assessments? Like, you know, you ever heard of that? Like, it's in business and portfolios and in insurance. If I start scoring creators by how risky they are to be targeted in a way that negatively affects the financial well-being of the platform, or could negatively impact content creators' ability to make a full-time income or get negative press, Crowder scores really high, because I don't know if you guys know this, but he did some jokes about Islam that put him like on the list, you know, that really bad list we don't talk about. That's like most reasonable people, even if they are as free speech and gung-ho as you want to be, most reasonable people don't do that. They don't go there. They know there are consequences, whether we agree with those consequences, whether they're disproportionate. We all know that free speech or not, there's things you don't say because there's people you don't flex with because they're bad hombres. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
all right, so let's use your logic for a minute then. You always say that most of the views on YouTube come from the 1%, the top of the top of the top.
Top 3%. Actually, data says top 3%.
Top 3%. So the million subscriber channel is higher, right?
90. Well, no, actually, because again, top 3% is not million. 1 million is not the cutoff for top 3%.
Right. But you know what I'm getting at though.
Yeah.
So by your logic, if YouTube got rid of Crowder, that means by your logic, they should get rid of Crowder, Logan Paul, PewDiePie, et cetera, et cetera. So
like it depends. It depends, because the thing is, remember what I said, you could do a risk assessment scoring. And in that risk assessment scoring, somebody targeted by those guys, was Phil called them like you know.
But how does that affect YouTube as a platform? When Logan Paul literally destroyed, like he created
Logan was put on probation, and you have to remember, Logan was demonetized. Logan was demonetized for 90 days, and then he was taken out of Google Preferred. And I don't think
there's nothing wrong with being demonetized. I think that Steven Crowder should be demonetized for certain.
So
I don't think that he should be completely deplatformed, because that's really
I don't disagree with you personally. I don't disagree with you. I'm telling you that if I'm like a ruthless shareholder type, that I would be considering that. I'm not saying I personally want Steven Crowder deplatformed.
Right.
I think that that's an extreme, and I think that's a method of last resort that you do when people incite violence or things go too far, or like there's like a suicide or like a murder, or like, you see what I'm saying? Like when something.
I mean, I guess we could say Alex Jones kind of treaded that line there.
That's where I didn't have an issue with them doing that. Like all things considered, and the Sandy Hook thing is also a fake news thing, because I have an issue with the anti-vax thing for the same reason, because that could cause a health epidemic. So I think that there's a level of responsibility, because what I'm worried about technologically is like this stuff is all going to get worse. The deep fakes thing is going to make all it worse. But what do you want to say, Viper?
But going back to your risk assessment analogy, if they do that risk assessment and they like ban somebody like Steven Crowder from the platform, like I was saying, that means they would have to get rid of people like Logan Paul, PewDiePie, and et cetera, et cetera.
Potentially.
And
depends on where the line is. Depends on where the line is.
But the point is, if they did that, then that's a whole bunch of views going out of the window off the platform. So would they cut off their nose and fight their face?
A risk assessment from a fiscally conservative person would account for that and weigh risk to reward. Because again, I think this is all down to money. Because I think the reason they didn't deplatform him is also money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm saying, if you understand where corporatist type people, if you understand where their headspace is and what they care about, all of this is predictable. Because remember, just a while back, we were debating the golden era. Remember?
I about to say that earlier, right? Yep.
You said that earlier. Thank you. But it's like, I'll take my Prosser, like I was right. I told you so. Like, I'll take my Prosser moment. Like, I told you so. Like, your boy told you. You know, like, see, that's my John imitation.
So let's go back to what I was saying earlier before you jump in, Roberto.
Like, anyway.
So I was saying earlier right before you hopped in, that if this Carlos Marsley guy was not an employee of Vox, this would not be an issue. What do you say to that? What do you say to that?
You're probably right more than not about that, because remember, Vox is traditional media that is playing in the digital space.
Yep,
exactly.
So this is an opportunity. It's weird because, again, I'm not necessarily saying they do have their an agenda. I think there's evidence to suggest that, but I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to say it
Oh, the hell with that, Roberto. There's a pattern of history of Vox media.
You can say that. I'm not going to go there without my legal counsel, because they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, I can go there, and there's a pattern of behavior with Vox media. What are we talking about here?
I'm saying that, like, you could make that argument. Oh, yeah, there's certainly things to suggest that or make that argument. I'm just not going to say one.
Well, I just said it. There's a pattern of behavior here. The hell,
because my lawyer in this matter would probably advise me against making such. like I'm just saying, just for real, homie.
What it is, there's a pattern of behavior
because they ain't playing. So I'm like, and that's my thing. Like, to your point, Paul, commentary is going to change. It's going to have to, because, like, for one thing, most commentary channels that are literally receipts-based channels don't realize that they are breaking several laws. Like, this is like a thing. Like, and I'm not saying Crowder was breaking any laws. I mean, but terms of service are interesting in YouTube, because the thing is, I could make, they're very selective in their interpretation of terms of service, which their lawyers did a fantastic job. I read that thing for 3.5 hours. Their lawyers did a fantastic job. So they have a lot of bandwidth in terms of how they can interpret that. They have a lot of latitude in terms of interpreting that, and enforcement is selective. And the argument that I often make, though, is like, if you read YouTube's terms of service and you think of yourself like YouTube describes you as an independent contractor, and then you look at any job contract you've actually had, your job contract is really freaking horrible. Like, the right to work thing is real. Like, the way that your job can enforce things is like worse. If you think that YouTube and social media platforms compromise your free speech, compromise your freedom of expression, compromise your capability to do certain things, or suppressing you, by comparison, think about the things that a lot of people say and do on the internet, and whether they would have the ability to freely express that in their place of employment.
Oh, hell no.
Even during in the break room or work hours, most people hide their identities on Twitter when they get involved in these things, specifically because they knew that if they publicly were tweeting and doing these things, and we've seen it before, employees in the government, even Facebook and Twitter expressing certain views, fired from their government jobs because it reflects negatively on the company.
Yep.
And so when you have YouTube's an interesting situation, because it has to consider its own public image, because look at how this was his name, Marcos or Mark is it Marcos or what's his name?
What are we talking about? Oh, Carlos.
Yeah,
Carlos. Yeah. So this Carlos guy, that's funny. One of my best friends is named Carlos. Like, so this Carlos guy, this reporter at Vox, you look at what he did, and then look at what Matt Watson, the YouTube Wake Up guy, did. They publicly shamed YouTube and specifically called on advertisers and said, look at what YouTube is supporting, because that is the leverage point of forcing YouTube's hand, is if you target their advertisers. And we also see people do that in weaponizing outrage culture on both sides, on all sides, for any issue. People do it even for petty revenge. Take politics out of it. People do it in cancel culture of, hey, look at who you're supporting. Look at what your representative or your ambassador did, or all these things. Is they go after people's livelihoods and money. I don't entirely think that that's appropriate. And I think brands can figure that stuff out for themselves. But I also think that when they make a public play like that, and then they get those kind of things trending, I think the irony is that all the people who did the Vox hashtag adpocalypse thing actually probably made any potential adpocalypse-like scenario more likely.
Yeah, when I saw teams start tweeting about all this stuff, I was like, oh great, here we go.
So let's talk about that then. Like you said, Roberto, he was calling on advertisers to step away from YouTube.
I fundamentally disagree with that, as you well know.
So what is his motive there? Because apparently then his motive go beyond Steven Crowder.
He's trying to shut down everyone.
Right. Steven Crowder is supposed to be the catalyst, but he's trying to shut down YouTube as a whole, as the platform as a whole, affecting everybody on the platform.
He's not going to shut them down, because he knows that YouTube itself will make a very ruthless decision. And the thing is, YouTube should make a ruthless decision. As much as people will disagree, and very much people who are at free speech absolutionists disagree, but you know that I'm a capitalist first. Me, secure the bag, right? If it's a choice between throwing out what might be problematic creators versus leaving all of us in tech or general internet commentary or entrepreneurship, fitness, yoga people on YouTube, makeup gurus on YouTube, if it's a choice between all of us and anybody that wants to talk about politics, I'm for getting rid of all the political pundits, and they can make their own damn platform with all the.
A lot of them have.
I know, and they should. And the thing is, that's the best thing for capitalism, to be very real with you. Yeah. Not to mention, if they want to style themselves as journalists and independent journalists, and they want mixed commentary and comedy in there, have it at Haas, but it creates a lot of headaches for the rest of us. So the thing is, from an independent standpoint, they're too reliant on YouTube anyway. I think all content creators financially might be over leveraged in YouTube or whatever platform gives them the most money if they don't have their own business, or they're not making their own deals, or they don't have their own and operated website. That's why what Philip DeFranco is doing with Rogue Rocket and going with what they call an O&O, an owned and operated website and platform, and also going subscription based and making themselves financially independent and solvent from all platforms, while using platforms for awareness, marketing, and distribution, is brilliant, because then they can keep absolute integrity and they can do things in their own way and own style, because the transaction is between them and their customers, them and their consumers. And so they're not leveraged by YouTube. They're not leveraged by advertiser boycotts. That's real freedom. That's real freedom of speech, because remember, if somebody's holding your paycheck, you don't have the freedom of speech you think you do, because you are at some point going to consider, is it costing you money?
So Roberto, let's take this down to a more granular level. So this whole thing originated between Steven Crowder and then Carlos Mars, the person. Steven Crowder made the joke calling Carlos gay, lifting, and all this stuff, although everything he said was pretty true.
I find these things but the thing is, even if it's true, it's like, my issue with him, if I was his homie, I would tell him, dude, you didn't need to do that.
Right.
Because now he's creating a situation.
He's branded as a comedian. He's trying to be a comedian.
He's not that good at it. He's not that good at it. But that's not a crime, but he's not that good at it. But here's my thing. If I was his friend or family, I would have told him not to make the jokes that got him on a hit list too. To be very real with you, to be very serious, you can just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Right.
And we live in a world of extreme consequences. And I get that people don't want to feel suppressed or censored, but it's I also think that people have completely disregarded any sense of personal responsibility, fiscal responsibility, care for the consequences, not only to them, but to like their families being harassed or targeted, and just self-preservation and good common sense. I think a lot of our grandparents would go upside our heads for all the damn fool things we let come out of our mouth that we do for attention or because we think we can or because we think we're entitled to us. Our grandparents, most of them would say they had freedom of speech too. And you know what they did? They kept a lot of their thoughts to themselves. They kept their damn mouths shut and they went on about their business.
But is that good?
Huh?
Is that good to just shut your mouth?
Not always, but like there's a point where there's a matter of what's called practicality and also, again, individual responsibility. Because people say, I say what I want and I'll take my lumps. They do the first part, but they don't take the lumps. Like, and that's real.
All right, so
I'm just saying.
But going back to my original point, though, taking it at a granular level, do you think that YouTube should have handled this better from the jump? So we wouldn't be at this.
Like, first of all,
so bad
YouTube's PR team should be fired.
That's so
like,
true.
I mean, do you realize, like, it's just time and time again with, like, the timing and the, like, mixing messages and, like, because you realize that laymen are going to think that the policies they just rolled out are a reaction to this Crowder thing where it's like, no, that was coming down the pipeline and corporate takes forever on things. It's like bureaucracy, it's red tape. It's like, just like they thought that the demonetization day stuff, they thought that was Logan Paul's fault. Logan was disproportionately, unfairly blamed and criticized for what happened to smaller channels. And it's like, that wasn't on him. That was something that was like announced back in November. He did his thing on like New Year's. Like, but no one pays attention to the blogs and to the YouTube internal stuff. I mean, they probably pay a lot more attention now. But like now, Crowder's gonna be like possibly unfairly like held responsible for these changes. And
I don't know, because right now he's getting a large following behind him after what happened.
It always is both ways. Like everybody, like it's always both ways.
He
like,
isn't gonna really hurt at the end of this.
I don't think
unless YouTube platforms him. He's fine.
Remember, there's alternatives to deplatforming. Like his channel was in a tier to where I would imagine he qualified for Google Preferred. That could be taken away, which could be as much of an 8 times difference in monetization. A lot of people don't realize that. It could be 3 to 8 times difference in revenue. That's significant.
Well, if he's completely monetized, he gets none of it anyway. So that getting out of Google Preferred isn't that his biggest problem.
Less and none are both problems. Like, and there's other things to where if his content is being considered, like evaluated by YouTube, his channel, even if it's not demonetized, and even if it's not limited in terms of Google Preferred, his channel could be recategorized and classified in ways that might limit or affect comparative distribution. This is usually on a video-to-video level. I anecdotally don't think unilaterally in most cases it's channel by channel, but given his inventory and the way that content is associated with each other, it could feel like the whole channel gets classified in a specific way just because of the majority of the videos being very similar in delivery style, format, language, everything. So it becomes by association. I also think negatively, if his channel is either demonetized, has limited run ads, or has individual videos demonetized, that will ripple effect to other commentary, political, and comedic channels that have similar channel clusters, viewer interest demographics, and people who watch this also watch that, or use similar topics or tags, and not just conservatives. But what people don't understand is that the irony of when people say, well, YouTube doesn't go after left-leaning or liberal channels, like they do. And some of them, like I have friends on all sides of the political spectrum. And like I said, the people who are hurt the most are the people in the middle, the moderates and the libertarians. The moderates and libertarians are screwed every time left-leaning channels get penalized, and they're screwed every time right-leaning channels get penalized. The irony of saying conservatives are suppressed is that they're bigger in YouTube than there might be more. Theoretically, there might be more liberal or left-leaning channels in YouTube, but none of them are as big as the right-wing channels. The right-wing channels are bigger and have a lot more of a base and a lot more support behind them than the left-leaning channels in YouTube, even though everyone likes to argue that YouTube has a left-leaning culture. I don't think that's representative in those numbers. So I don't necessarily think that that's true. And then so it's hard if people want to play leaning on the right, the victim there, when the reality people in the libertarian sphere and people who are independents and people who are moderates don't have as big of a voice, so they don't get noticed at all. Just like how a lot of people aren't as big as somebody who works at Vox. You're not a high-profile employee for a large organization. Your voice isn't heard. And I've talked to channels demonetized for less, or destroyed, or like removed for less than what Crowder's doing now. Smaller channels, non-political at all, have been terminated for less than what Crowder's done. And even whether it's harassment, commentary, this thing, that thing, small YouTubers don't get the fair shake that a channel with 1 million plus gets when it comes to the enforcement of policies. Crowder and Alex Jones get a lot more of a pass than a channel with 50,000 subscribers.
So he had Monkey Jones. You know.
Yeah, look what happened to Monkey Jones. Look what happened to MJ.
Yeah.
So I guess that answers my next question. Why, when like a few days ago, when this whole thing blew up, and a lot of people are on the side of Carlos Marza, why didn't YouTube do something with Steven Crowder then? Like, they had the opportunity right then and there to kind of nip this in the bud, but they chose to turn a blind eye.
Well, they did try and nip it in the bud, but then Carlos said that it wasn't enough.
But YouTube didn't do anything. They just said that none of it. What he did, like,
they said they were looking at it. They said they were looking at it, and he felt they weren't moving hard enough or fast enough to satisfy him.
Yeah, and then when they demonetized him, he said demonetization isn't enough. We need to deplatform him, because when we deplatform him, he won't be able to make any money, and his business will go down.
Which I think is like that's malicious. That's malicious. That's targeting someone's livelihood, and the platform shouldn't be weaponized in that way. And also, cancel culture itself is a problem. Like, cancel culture itself, like, just because you disagree with somebody's content, you yourself don't necessarily get to make the judgment call as to what content they should make, or how they should make it, or how they should do it. However, there are consequences for them making that content, meaning if their business partners don't want to work with them, that's the choice of those advertisers. They have every right to pull their money. If other fans don't want to support them, they have every right. That's a thing. Or if the platform itself says they don't want to be associated. There is a such thing in this country in the First Amendment as right to association. You don't have to be tied to people you don't want to be tied to. You don't have to facilitate someone doing something on your platform or in your house or in your company. And there's a reason we have that protection, because no one wants to be held hostage in their own home in that way and forced to take consequences for what their guest does. What somebody in their space does. So I understand that. So that's why this is complicated. But to your point, Viper, that's why it's so complex, and why YouTube can't nip in the bud or move fast, is because it's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of things to consider. And again, if you do something to Crowder, algorithmically, there are ripple effects of things that look like Steven Crowder and people who didn't do anything that can also be impacted. And then to some extent, YouTube is a very compassionate company. Before they do anything, they consider, is this somebody that and part of the reason small creators don't get nearly as much, small YouTubers, I don't want to say small creators, the reason small YouTubers don't get as much of what you could call a fair shake in many cases is YouTube considers larger creators to also be business owners who have employees that depend on them for their livelihood. Steven Crowder employs a lot of people. And so going after him doesn't just affect him. When this Carlos character talks about deplatforming him, you're also talking about affecting people, whether they work for him, whether they agree with him, whether you want to call them complicit or not, that they didn't do anything to you and they still rely on a job at the end of the day. Yeah. And just saying they should work somewhere else is completely, wholly unfair and is not sympathetic and compassionate. And so it feels sometimes like some of these people feel compassion is only for people like them. And that's another problem with otherizing people that you don't like. That's not limited to race or religion or gender or identity. Otherizing people is also about people that you disagree with.
Paul, come on.
Go ahead.
Paul, what do you think should have happened in this particular situation?
That's a hard one to answer. I mean, personally, I don't think YouTube should have done very much. I mean, at the most, demonetize the videos that they think violated their policies. I mean, I don't think that anyone should really be deplatformed, especially on YouTube, when they are trying to be free speech for everyone. And I know that free speech is not it's only in America and in a few other countries. It's not a worldwide thing. But in Steven Crowder's case, He was making comedy, and comedy is subjective. We can agree or disagree on that.
He's Canadian, by the way, and he's up in Canada.
Do they have different? I don't know.
Yeah,
Canadian
it's
laws.
it's actually a little different, and they have some ongoing legislation. That's what happened with Peterson. They have some ongoing legislation and it's problematic because like it's a very weird situation over there. So I just wanted to bring that up just for clarification because that gets important.
It's a sticky subject because what I'm really worried about is the slippery slope, because the channel clusters and what happens when one thing goes down, the next thing happens and the next thing happens. We saw with the YouTube Wake Up how everything's changed already. And I'm just saying, one demonetization and one adpocalypse after another, YouTube keeps changing and changing for better or for worse. A lot of times it's for worse. The golden era is over. I agree with that. But what I'm really worried about is where we're going to be in 3 years, because the big problem is, especially like we mentioned with the commentary channels, or even like the drama, like quick news sources where they show all the receipts and everything. I don't think anyone really knows the law behind like screenshotting text. That's illegal. You can get sued for showing text messages that you don't really have access to. And it's a complete mess.
Consent law in a lot of states, and like in a lot of states, it's not just civil; it's criminal. It's like it's bad.
Yeah.
And there's also people doing some of those with recordings. There's like if something was a live stream and things of that nature and everything like that. And also to be very real with you, if you re-upload people's deleted videos, because people make the argument that, oh, well, the people deserve to know. It's like, that's intellectual property theft. That's you like, that's a legitimate copyright. Like, I know that there's in commentary, there's an unwritten rule of you don't copyright claim, you don't copyright strike, but that's actually a legitimate theft of you monetizing somebody else's video that they decided to not leave up anymore.
Yeah. If it's changed and manipulated in a point where it is fair use, I think that I shouldn't have to take down my video because, for instance, in the James Charles situation, if Toddy deletes her video, I shouldn't have to delete my video just because there were clips of her video.
Not if it's transformative, but I'm talking about people who do full re-uploads of deleted videos.
Yeah, and those get killer views. I'm thinking about the ad revenue that's getting. I'm like, dude, I gotta get on that before it's totally banned.
That's theft, and like anybody, even though I know it's an unwritten rule in commentary, anybody would have the right to have their digital rights management company and to take that ad revenue. Everybody would have the right to take that ad revenue because it's like, that's my video that I took down and you're cashing in on it. No. Because it's your right as a content creator to decide to not take down videos. Like I saw people, Trisha Paytas has had some videos she deleted. KSI had some videos he deleted, and people are re-uploading them and cashing in. I understand what they're trying to accomplish from a community standpoint, but there's a law when it comes to copyright that straight up is. And the thing is, if we're going to stand for fair use, we can't simultaneously violate copyright if we want people to take us seriously when we fight for fair use. We can't.
Here's the problem. YouTube doesn't have a line in the sand. YouTube needs to say, you cannot do this. You can do this.
That's hard because it's a global. If it was only something in the US, you can do that. Because that's why we have the problem with copyright with Article 13 is because of all the international, like, you see what I'm saying? It's like, we haven't figured out a legal system for a global economy and for a 21st century economy yet, which is why I was talking to you about that on Twitter. Is like, this is the thing that scares me, is that the technology that we use every single day is so 2 decades ahead of the laws that we have, and our money is tied up in this. And it's like, and if they change the law in a way and they don't get it right, because they're not going to have to live with it, and they made their money, like the people making the laws, they made their money. They're not tied up in it. They're not gonna have to live with it. They're gonna be dead in 20 years. They're gonna be dead in 10 years. They're gonna be dead in 5 years. Like, because they're old. Like, sorry.
They don't know how it works.
They don't know how it works, and they have no interest in learning because they're not invested. Exactly. So they'll screw us, and we'll spend the next 20 years unraveling this shit. And the thing is, in 20 years, the technology will be even worse. It'll be even further ahead. It's like, so if we don't fix this now,
it's scary.
That's what scares me, is that everyone who wants to survive has to be leveraged into the 21st century economy. If you are, I hate to say it, there's going to be a real problem for below average humans surviving going forward. I think Gary Vee started talking about this more, but Andrew Yang's been talking about it too. There's a book, The War on Ordinary People, that I think everybody should read if they want to wake up and realize, like, they got to start making money 21st century style because jobs are going away. But the big thing is, even with that happening simultaneously, the shifting sand for those of us who play in the digital economy is nothing but chaos. Every day, the rules keep changing.
Yep.
That's why YouTube is so problematic for content creators. Is like, you could be up one day and be like king of the hill, and then your entire genre could go away in YouTube one way or another. Like, or a rule set could change, you're demonetized, or advertisers can completely abandon your type of content, or you could do something that is completely harmless, like kids channel, but because there are horrible people in the world, you're negatively impacted. One of my good friends had like the 5th largest gymnastics YouTube channel in the world, and her views got cut down by like 80% because of what happened a couple of months ago. Like, devastating.
That's crazy. So, Roberto, what do you think should happen for this particular situation, or in this particular situation?
I think that there should be a department that in YouTube that gets ahead of the curve on these things and is dedicated to. There should be 3 departments in YouTube.
One should actually talk to each other.
No, well, that's corporate bureaucracy in general. All the major corporations and social media platforms, and all companies that have more than, all organizations that have more than 800 employees have communication problems.
Oh yeah,
but that's a structural, like, and that's a workflow and an agile thing. Like, that's a whole corporate retraining and remodeling thing. One day I might do consulting around that, but the thing is, I don't have experience managing at a high level in an org that big. So I don't know if my theoretical models scale. So I would have to workshop that. Like, my point being, there needs to be 3, in my opinion, there needs to be 3 departments in YouTube that don't exist to address problems like this. Because the thing is, YouTube's not equipped, Viper and Paul, to handle the current issues that the platform faces, because 1, they don't have, to my knowledge, a department that is dedicated to something like what Meredith from Game Theorist talks about a lot, fanthropology, the culture and entomology and anthropology of fandom. You need somebody that is a chief cultural officer at YouTube that learns the culture of the platform and has a team dedicated to understanding how different niches, genres, and categories of YouTube behave, what their culture is, who the major players and voices are, what the patterns are there, and to start to understand how those people operate, because you can't look at YouTube from the top down. You have to go bottom down. You have to be in the dirt, because like, there are things, yes, patterns and algorithms that I can tell you about that are true almost universally, but then there are things that only work in tech, and things that only happen in beauty, and things that only happen in gaming, and so on and so forth. And each of those groups of people, just like in a lunchroom back in high school, they're very different cultures and cliques, and they behave and operate differently. Yeah, they're all humans. Yeah, they're all students. Yeah, but they are very different types of people, and they don't all mesh and work the same way. And when you do one thing, they react to it differently. And we don't, and I don't think these social media platforms think about culture. It's like people talk about America. There are 2 Americas, and then there's like 30 subgenres of both of those Americas. You know, if you think about it. Technically, I would argue that politically you think that there are 2 Americas, but I would say economically there are about roughly 6 of them, and that we have a feudal or caste system without people realizing it. But that's a whole classism money issue of the culture of money. Culture is different, not because of, there are things with skin color, race, and gender and all those things, but the real culture difference is money. The real culture difference is people who make a certain amount of money live very differently at certain tax brackets. I've seen it. I've lived it. It's totally different. And I say all this to say this.
I'm going to say, to your point earlier, Roberto, I think largely the reason why YouTube doesn't handle these issues accordingly is because there is nothing on planet Earth like YouTube. And every time something like this comes up, this is the first time YouTube is seeing anything like it, so they don't really know how to adjust.
There's no pattern to follow. The problem
that's why I'm saying they have to study their own culture.
Yeah.
They did something unprecedented, so you have to audit yourself. If you, like, just like how we're seeing with AI technology, people don't know how to handle some of this new technology because it's never existed. That's why it's gonna be hard to make laws around it, because it's like, this never existed. What do we do? There's no precedent for it. Like we talked earlier about the dichotomy of, is YouTube a platform or YouTube's a publisher? In the 21st century economy, that idea is outdated. Like, because these things didn't exist 15 years ago. They didn't.
Well, yeah, but either YouTube needs to stand with their creators and stand with, what they're going to say, or they need to They either need to what's the word?
Be careful about binary.
Censor or not, you know?
Be careful about binary, because here's the thing. If they don't, we all lose money, because the media will we know how the media's tilt their hand. The media's tilt their hand.
Horrible.
No positive, like not going to give you positive stories about YouTubers, and the public has tipped their hand. The public, because you know this is commentary. What trend's better, positive or negative?
Negative. It's always negative, because that's what get clicks, because you get paid by the amount of clicks.
And
that's
so I
the
can't
difference
even
between American news sources and other countries.
And so I can't fault the mainstream media that much for wanting to go negative on YouTubers when there's a financial incentive to do it. Like, I can, but you know what I'm getting at. Because
just like you say, everyone is a hypocrite on a long enough timeline.
On a long enough timeline, right? So, like, that's the problem, is human nature. We're all the problem. Because you know what? Like, if there are no horrible people in the world, kids' content was just going to be just fine in YouTube if there were no horrible people in the world, right? And now, if we were all reasonable, we could all talk about politics and reasonably disagree and not necessarily attack each other's character or use slurs or do this or do that, right? But we aren't civilized. That's the thing. And the thing is, social media isn't ruining us. What it is it's revealing us, as Gary Vee would say, but it's doing it at a scale that we don't anticipate the fallout from. It's making it more dangerous even for ordinary people like that want to have a voice. They're not necessarily equipped to deal with all the consequences. Like, you yourself have had issues with, like, you know, not just hate and internet trolls, but even like some IRL stalker shit, like, you know, like that. Like, I've had to deal with one guy, like, and then I had that weird thing with somebody just showing up to my office, like, and Cody had a problem with that. A lot of YouTubers have people showing up to their houses and stuff like that. Logan had to wrestle a guy to the ground. Like, there's, like, it's chaos, right? And it's all because we are imperfect people using almost godlike abilities every day to communicate to, like, I mean, it's unprecedented. So YouTube has to internally figure out its own stuff to start to get ahead of the curve on its own problems and deal with them more at a cultural and organic level within the community, because YouTube doesn't have enough resources in terms of internal culture. Then they don't have enough issues in terms of creator relations and creator care, in terms of knowing how to make creators feel heard and respected and like they're an active participant in the decisions of platform and policy. I mean, yes, they would probably cherry pick, but they should probably make a creators council. They should probably make a creators council where they have, and they tap a lot. I mean, I think they informally tap people like Philip DeFranco and Ethan and Gila Klein and some other people that are larger voices in the platform, and Casey Neistat, sure. But I think they should formalize that, and they should have a creators council where they propose things that they're thinking of doing.
But it needs to be unbiased. You need a very diverse selection of people.
I think you could, on the surface, do that, but I don't think that on the surface you could do that and you could pay lip service to it. But I don't think anyone, to Marquez's constant point, I don't think anyone's capable of being unbiased. Philip DeFranco talks about no one's capable of being unbiased, and I think that the minute you try to frame something as being unbiased or frame something as being fair, you're putting yourself in a position to be called biased, unfair, and hypocrite the minute you try to take any of that moral high ground. So again, I think that they should never say it's that. But I also think that realistically, everyone has their own bias. You could kind of see where certain figures or caricatures in YouTube or Google as a company might lean. But I also don't think they're evil, and I also don't think that they're massively pushing an agenda besides making as much money as possible, and also trying to, their big thing is they want to beat television. If you want to know what YouTube's agenda is, YouTube's agenda isn't anti-conservative. YouTube's agenda isn't socialism. YouTube's and Google's agenda isn't to be nefarious. They have so much money that they could buy all the politicians if they wanted to get it done. Like,
YouTube's already kind of beaten TV. Really? To be quite honest with you.
They haven't in terms of advertiser market share, because everyone talks about views and watch time. Money is what matters. And you need to take advertisers from, to be real, they could save the advertisers, because they're squandering money on a media that people skip ads on and don't watch and don't get enough accurate analytics on. And to be very real with you, too many people still spend they're over leveraged in billboards and radio, right?
But the
Digital
thing is
advertising keeps
that
going up.
that's not YouTube's fault. That's the fault of people being in those higher ups in those businesses not being progressive enough to see where YouTube is going and
But
where
when
it
the
is.
media leverages them and
Yeah.
writes negative press about YouTubers and makes advertisers and people with those budgets feel uncomfortable and unsafe,
Because they feel like they're going to be associated to these like horrible people to be associated with. The problem is that when people see an ad,
the
they
media is
that
associating them with them.
with. So, like for instance, if I see an ad for whatever company in front of Logan Paul, I'm not like, yeah, I know Logan Paul and this company totally had a deal where
But
they did
you're in YouTube culture. The far majority of people that aren't, they're casuals, that are like noobs and casuals that don't know any better, trust media sources. They trust television and radio and print, and they trust Vox and The Verge and CNN and CNET and MSNBC and Fox and Washington Post and New York Post and the New Yorker. They trust these because you like. I'm
But YouTube
sorry,
is still a new platform,
people
so we're
people
still
over
in that
40
paradigm shift.
people over 40 are still alive, and
Yeah.
people who are not deeply invested in the internet beyond do you realize how many people watch all of you that are very casual internet people, and it doesn't occur to them to hit the subscribe button or to click or to comment because they're just watching something the way they would watch it if it was TV, so they're not doing that. Like culturally, as big as we believe YouTube is, for normal people, they still kind of don't get it. They're not embedded and invested in the culture the way that a creator or a hardcore fan is. And the majority of people, there are over 3 billion actual users of YouTube, 2 billion daily viewers. I'm telling you, the far majority of them are casuals, because if you look at the fact, like PewDiePie is the biggest channel in YouTube. Out of 2 billion people on the planet, less than 100 million of 2 billion are subscribed to PewDiePie, taking nothing away from 100 million, but 100 million is still like 5% of 2 billion and less than that of 3 billion total platform usage. So you get where I'm going with that, is that all things considered, most people using the platform still aren't invested in the platform at a deep cultural level to understand the things we're even talking about.
No, because like you said, most of them are just casual watchers. They don't know the inner workings of YouTube like we do.
But they are going to be leveraged by established media, because established media has literally centuries on YouTube under its belt. And they have decades of personal experience invested with those things and with those voices. And so that's different. And that's where the advertisers get leveraged by the headlines, and they're put in a position because the people who make decisions above that mid-level marketing manager, that 20-something or 30-something year old at a company that decides to like yank the budget or not, like they're being leveraged by the media in a way because their gray hair boss that's 50, 60, 70 doesn't give a shit about who PewDiePie is, probably doesn't give a shit about who Steven Crowder is, probably doesn't care about all they hear. All they know is the newspaper said something bad.
Even with like the Logan Paul stuff, like now he's a completely like he has completely different content like than what he was producing, and he's still getting the backlash.
But
as he
not
was.
just
Logan
him.
Paul says anything, and people refer him to the guy who filmed a dead body, which I mean,
But not
it's
just
funny,
him.
but
YouTubers are thought of in that way because of Logan Paul. And the thing is, they all think we're friends with him and that we all approve of him because of how big he is.
yeah.
And they
I mean,
think
for
that
some
we're
of his
okay with
content,
that.
I'd approve, but other not so much.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean,
His
regular
podcast
people
is pretty good.
Regular people genuinely believe that Felix, PewDiePie, one of the nicest people in the world, one of the nicest people on this platform, regular people think that he's either like secretly alt-right or that he had something to do with the New Zealand shooting, like because of the meme and the stuff. Like, again, casual people. Most people are uneducated about things. Most people are not nuanced. Most people are not informed. Most people don't do research. Most people work 10, 12 hours a day, and they consume things in sound bites and headlines and move on with their lives. And I don't entirely fault them for that, but it does create problems. Massive
because
problems.
of the habits that they grew up doing. Like you get your news from this source and this source and this source, and they don't really see YouTube as a place for a knowledge base.
Something that's existed for less than 15 years has a very hard time making people believe in it
It's
in the
new.
way.
It's a new and young platform, and I do really think that they're trying their hardest. The problem is that I think in some cases they're going the wrong way about it, and they're taking it from a reactionary standpoint.
But I also feel for them because a lot of those people are stuck within a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That like I've been a corporate employee. It sucks. I've been a corporate employee. It sucks when you have 5 bosses and they don't necessarily all agree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it sucks when you're one of 10 people on a project and even all of you don't agree and you have conflicting information, and where there's internal politics and reasons why your department may not communicate with that department, or there might be, even in a technology company, technology reasons why you guys don't communicate. And the reality is a lot of times people just don't check their email. A lot of times people are just overwhelmed. A lot of times people are just trying to get through their damn shift. And I feel for those people, like, because it's easy to yell at the platform or yell at the organization. Just like I feel for, there are people working for Crowder that they're like, oh, damn, why'd you say that, man? Like there's people, I'm sure, working for Crowder, they're like, oh, did you have to? Did you have to, man?
But these are also jokes that he stated years ago. And why is it just now a problem? This was the same thing with the whole Rewired Soul situation that we've discussed.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It was only a problem once it was a problem.
Bing, ding, ding, ding. That's why I'm against cancel culture. Like, I don't have to like somebody to say don't cancel them. Like, I don't have to like somebody to say that, like, or that this goes too far, or that this is like, now again, I think there are things that Crowder does or has done, like, for what I do know of him, that are problematic. Like, I'm not deep into his content and everything like that. Usually I like watch him because I'm like, a friend sends me something and then they want to know what I think. And then, like, you know, we talk about it. The same thing with anybody, I don't even think that I can't remember the last time I watched anything from the Young Turks, like, but their content's gotten like super weird last time I saw it anyway. But also had this weird Twitter like tiff with Jimmy Dore where he was like insulting my mother or some shit because he was mad about something. Like, he's just weird. Like, and he's like really like a hypocrite, but you know, it's whatever. Sometimes he also does good journalism, so you know, people can be dicks sometimes, whatever, right? Like,
that should be like your Twitter bio.
But you see what I mean about like there's a lot of people on the left and the right I don't like. Like I think a lot of people, again, those moderates and like independents and libertarians, like, they all get screwed by people on the left and the right constantly. Like, the thing about this whole thing and the way YouTube is screwed no matter what it does, because to your point, if they take a binary approach, because like if we play out your scenario of they either stand with creators, then YouTube can figure out a wiggle room scenario where YouTube as a platform survives. But if they have to stand with creators to the detriment of money and revenue going down, it means YouTube has less resources to deploy, which means the platform gets worse in terms of things like outages, quality control, notifications, not investing in new technologies, new creator initiatives, all the things that we need and want them to do to keep the platform super, super healthy. Not going to be as easy to do if there's less money coming in. All of those backlogged monetization approvals, not easy to get through if they don't have the money to hire more people to do those.
Exactly, but if they're deplatforming everyone, how is that going to give them?
It's not going to be deplatforming everybody. Just remember, there are 50 million content creators on the platform. 50 million content creators on the platform. There's a lot of people you could sacrifice on the altar of stability and be just fine.
Well, I'm sure if YouTube, like, if they're really going to go on that like risk factor thing, like they should have taken down PewDiePie after the whole Nazi thing. If we're going to be perfectly honest,
I think that that's not as bad as other things, meaning that it's like, it's a high risk category, but it's not necessarily a. I think that the way they hit him was actually probably too hard to begin with, personally. Like,
yeah, they did. They hit him really hard.
The way that, because remember, it's not just risk analysis; it's risk versus reward. Risk versus reward. So again, you are weighing the relationship, monetary value, and also the good faith value of how a content creator behaves. If we're taking a good faith assessment, there's no comparison between Crowder and PewDiePie. If you're saying like someone you like and trust and somebody that you don't think is going to repeatedly go way too far or even be a risk to themselves, there's no comparison between PewDiePie and Crowder. There's no comparison between PewDiePie and Alex Jones. It's not even close. It's not even close.
Yes, I would agree on a certain level. But my only problem is why are you able to have political comedians like Crowder on the platform, but not allow these other late night show hosts who do slurs against Trump?
Remember what we talked about? Remember what we talked about in terms of, so there's two concepts at play there. Establishment. I would say there's probably 2 to 3 factors. Establishment, media.
Yeah, but why are they monetized? They could just be demonetized.
Independent. No, they have independent sales teams. Like one talks about, one of the things no one talks about in the business of YouTube is how, and this is why to some extent MCNs aren't always the devil, because we have homies
because they get you the ads that you see on your thing. Yeah.
And some of them, because again, if they have an independent sales rep, the percentage of ads you get are better. The revenue is considerably higher because it's negotiation on behalf versus just the public pool. Because the problem with what people don't realize about AdSense is a bidding war. Because like to rephrase that, AdWords or Google Ads is a bidding war. And so there's a general community pool, and then there's a tiering system, and there's qualifications, and that's very much algorithmically driven. Like a lot of people don't think it is. It's like, but I've been on the advertiser side of that dashboard because for my business and for clients and stuff, and I was Google AdWords certified. That's a whole nother system, and it's a whole nother thing that gives you a different perspective on how Google's business model works. But
why is it safer to be on one side than the other?
Because it's like, statistically it's true, because statistically
it's true, but why are we at a point in society that it's safer to be on
that has to do with, in many ways, precise language. Remember, it's less inflammatory to say don't build a wall than build a wall. It just is, and there's historical reasons why that's true. And just because that's why the false equivalency, like Philip DeFranco makes a really great point when he says you cannot always play whataboutism or whataboutism, and Obama did it, so Trump should be able to do it. It's like they're not the same people. They're like, you have to contextualize things. So just because an opposite view, right or left, it doesn't necessarily by itself make it better. It's the wording itself and the usage of the wording and the framing device of that language that makes it worse. It just happens to also be the direction that a certain person is going. Like a primary example is the irony of political correctness is that political correctness used to be the domain of people who were much more quote unquote right leaning, because there's an association with that and religious or social conservatism. Like when I was growing up, Pokemon was the devil. Pokemon was considered devil worship. Harry Potter, out of here. Like there was a absolute anti-mortal Viper. You remember? No Mortal Kombat. No,
Dungeons and Dragons.
No Dungeons and Dragons. Simpsons was ruining America and everything like that. Beavis and Butthead. Remember that? Irony is that everything associated with that being horrible, South Park, like that was all right-leaning people wanting to censor that back in the day. Video games was heavily, they wanted to destroy video games. They wanted to destroy the comic book industry. Interestingly, it's a matter of now role reversal of like who is wanting to be protectionist of things. It's always a not great idea to do those things, regardless of who holds that opinion, left or right. Therein lies the problem. Is it's not about it being a left opinion or a right opinion. It's about it being a bad thing to do or a not good thing to do, regardless of who holds that opinion.
What's weird is as a society, we keep flip-flopping.
We do, and nobody sees it. Is that what's considered conservative today will be liberal tomorrow.
Okay, time out. I'm tired of this. Time the hell out, because I am not a politician. I don't follow politics, and I
follow economics, dude. I'm just saying that's what I'm getting at.
No, but what I'm saying is that when you keep saying left and right, I don't know what the hell that is.
Left and right to scam. That's my point. Left and right to scam.
No,
because it's constantly changing. I mean,
that's my point.
What left used to be is what conservative is now.
Exactly. That's my point. That's why I'm saying it's a scam. And if you realize it's a scam and you look at the money and you look at who is applying leverage, Vox is a traditional media company.
I don't think y'all understand where I'm coming from here.
Okay. Well, there's the different parties. So like.
Okay, so
there's a difference I got between Democratic, a leftist and a Democratic.
I got Democratic and I got Republican. So after that, I don't know nothing. So I don't know conservative, liberal, left, right. I don't know any of that stuff. So what is that?
So libertarian is kind of like
libertarian is what you would call like very much for individual rights.
Yeah, if you're not hurting anyone, it's not the end of the world.
Usually very conservative fiscally, but very
Mhm.
socially liberal. Do what you
Yeah.
want as long as it doesn't affect me.
Capitalism?
Very in favor of capitalism,
Okay.
but also not against taking care of people past a certain point, but then that gets nuanced. So it's
Okay.
again, it's like socially, hey, do what you want. Like you don't want this, don't do it. You want that, do you, just don't make me do it. And
Okay,
then
so-
fiscally, don't like tax me less and like get the debt down and
Yeah.
All right.
things
So
like that.
when you say liberals, you mean they are more independent then?
Well, we were just talking
no,
about
we were talking about
libertarians.
libertarians. We were talking
Yeah.
about libertarians. Very different. Like
Oh.
we're talking about libertarians and most moderate people that even on the political spectrum might be what you would call more center-leaning left or center-leaning right. So
Okay. So again, what the hell is the difference between left and right?
usually it's defined by the extremes, like anything else. Remember, it's just like the Apple versus Android people that are extreme versus like people who use both who are agnostic.
That's a great analogy.
Like, yeah, it's like you have these like PC master race. It's like, you know, Apple sheep, like, you know, Samsung knight. You know, like you have people that wrap their identity in something, and you have people who are much more, I would say, independent, who their identity is I'm me. My identity is like I don't belong to a group. I don't join. It's like I do what's in my interest. I do what's right for me, and I don't care what you do. You do what you do. You, I do me. That's kind of a more, you know. So like, there's an argument to be made that people that are centrist are more reasonable, or at least that's how we like to think of ourselves.
Okay. So is liberal and conservative, is that related to Democrat or Republican at all?
Mostly.
But
there's like different, there's so many different nuances. It's really kind of hard to
That's
explain.
why
I don't know. I don't know all of the different ones. I know more
Me
about
neither.
the libertarian just because I
Oh
stand with
Lord.
more of
Okay.
some
Never
of
mind.
that
We're
stuff.
good.
But I know there's like the leftist is an actual like party now, I think.
Really?
There's like
It is?
the Green Party is a different
Oh,
thing.
really? Yeah, I know about the Green Party. But you know, we used to have more parties in this country. We used to have
We need more parties. We need
Like,
more
we used to
parties
have-
in the actual election.
But the thing is, Jefferson was against like Jefferson and I believe Washington were against a two-party system, and they kept thinking that was going to divide the country. Oh wow, they were prophets. Like it's like we used to have the Whig Party. We used to have the Green Party,
the Whig Party.
We had like we had the Green Party, the Whig Party, the Federalists. We had like about 6 strong parties in this country for a very long time. And then there was like I guess you could call it a power grab or a political coup that kind of whittled us down to about roughly 3, and then they killed off the third. And I'm like, I'm not joking. Like that's how. It
No, yeah, I know. I want to do more research on how all that stuff changed, but I know the basics of some of that.
Oh,
Yeah, I wish someone would dedicate a YouTube channel to that.
So you said
Seriously.
all I know is Democrat, Republican, and Independent. So you saying there was more than that?
Yeah.
Independent. I mean, that's
Lord.
kind of centrist. I mean, to be quite honest.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
that's just saying you don't align.
But they leverage us down to where we have 2 choices. But what no one wants to really appreciate that I keep bringing up whenever this stuff comes up is, and why I don't think of myself as political, it's that I'm forced into it because the politicians affect the economy too much, and the political rhetoric of extreme actors on the left and the right then affect the policies of these technology platforms, because then the media leverages it for a headline, which then fucks with all our money. So like I get dragged into these things. Which is why my answer is, if the system's gonna be corrupt, y'all just should all help me become a billionaire, because I'll just fix it all. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, I'll be a dictator, but I'll be benevolent. I'll be good. Ish.
It's just like right now, it's like we have so much information. It's like to not be knowledgeable about some of the stuff is just kind of like,
it's willful ignorance. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's like, but also, to counter argument, devil's advocate, people are screwed because like they're overworked. Like my video that I'm supposed to drop tonight is about that. People are overworked. They're tired. They're exhausted. They work too much. They get paid too little. Like when they're done with all of that, do they really want to like get educated about this stuff, or do they want to yell about it, or do they want to be distracted about it, or do they just want to opt out of it altogether? I can sympathize with that. It's bad because it means, well, you're gonna not care and still vote, which is horrible. But
I know.
I also understand that everyone feels beat up and tired and angry. I get it. I was there too. I get it. But, you know, we all have to step up, and I'm just trying to help people like take care of their money, take care of their health, take care of their creativity, think for themselves so that they can do better and make choices that are good for them instead of being tricked by someone telling them that your identity is this or your identity is that, so you should do this or should do that. You should look at all your options, look at all the information you have available without getting too overwhelmed. Find people that you feel you can trust, that like you really don't feel and you can, like, they've proven a track record with you to where you don't feel they're taking advantage of the situation or spreading misinformation, that they're historically more right than wrong, historically correct, and then try to come to the best decision you can for yourself. And if it goes sideways, try to make the most of it and just, you know, like, do what you can, right? Because that's, like, at the end of the day, I feel like that's all anybody can do. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I like what Philip DeFranco's doing. That's why I think it's important.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
So Roberto, do you think YouTube will ever be able to like somehow get ahead of any of this stuff? Do you think they will like?
There would have massive changes. They'd have to do so many massive changes, and there's only so much you can do. But I think they can put themselves in a position. Like, so in business, you always think about the worst case scenario. And you do what's called a SWOT analysis: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Mm-hmm. I think YouTube does a very poor job of analyzing its weaknesses and its threats. I think it understands its strengths in many cases. I think it understands its opportunities, and I think it ruthlessly pursues that. And I think it leaves itself massively vulnerable to its weaknesses and to its threats. And I think that that might be, I don't want to fault leadership too much, because the thing is, there's a lot, and that's a lot of moving pieces. I think maybe they should expand leadership. I think there should be more. And someone would say, wow, that's more bureaucracy. That's more cooks in the kitchen. The problem is, I think representationally, you don't have enough C-level executives like Fwiz that came up in the community. Like, so if there are creators that would like to do a business or corporate role, and there are OG creators that are looking for a job or want to like step up and like protect the platform, I think YouTube should start reaching out to OG creators and bringing them on as C-level executives or working them up as VPs to C-level. Because the thing is, if you don't have experience, you might have been successful, but maybe not quite qualified for that level of leadership. But I think they should groom people from the community potentially. I mean, this is what I would do for some leadership roles, because they'll understand nuances of the platform. Like, the strongest employees in an organization often are people that are mavericks completely from the outside that can shake things up and bring in innovation. And then you balance that with people who understand the culture of the company and the culture of the consumer, that are protective of that, that can appreciate the history and also know what will happen or how people will react to change and to innovation, so that you can balance. It's like new ideas, fresh blood, but also people who came up from the bottom, came up from the mailroom, or hey, they love the brand and then they worked for the brand. They understand how the community or the employees are going to handle things. They can anticipate problems. That's how you balance things, in my opinion. And I think that's where YouTube drops the ball. I think they're too much in full steam ahead, grow, more revenue, more views, more everything, optimize. You move fast, you break a lot of shit, and sometimes it's great, because you power through. But there are massive vulnerabilities to where if they catch you, man, it's going to derail the whole thing.
The backlash.
Paulie G.
Yeah.
Where do you think YouTube go from here?
I honestly have no freaking clue. The other problem is that we're still, like we've talked about before, in the fallout of the last quote unquote adpocalypse. Like, I think Special Books by Special Kids is still like, I think they even now demonetized. They can't have comments on their videos, which is stupid, because literally they are only like, they're trying to give voices to these kids who don't have voices. That channel it's a great channel, but they're still being suppressed in the algorithm because they're being exploitative by kids. The problem with YouTube is, like we said, they're reactive and they're going full steam ahead. They've talked with YouTube, and YouTube isn't budging on any of their claims. No matter what YouTube does, they're going to get a crap load of backlash. And I don't know what the right direction for YouTube is, but it's a very slippery slope. And that's really where I want to leave it at, because there is no end to this conversation.
Yeah, you're right. There's really no end, because
there's the money side, because you gotta appease the advertisers. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
Like, people won't stay on YouTube if they can't make money. Like a lot of people just
Which is sad because on YouTube is probably the best platform to grow an audience, to sell other products and create other businesses.
It is. I keep trying to tell people, man, I keep trying to move people and make them less dependent on AdSense. Because if you can get off of AdSense, you can really be independent. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like I don't think Steven Crowder getting demonetized is going to hurt his business that much. He's got Mug Club and he's booming with Mug Club right now.
He's
Jumping on the bandwagon.
He's getting a bump, but those things always die down.
Of course.
Like,
but I think that he's still going to be perfectly fine because he has a ton of other ventures.
I think but the capital that goes out for that because of the employees and the fact that like no one talks about it, but he actually helps out a lot of people that are controversial in YouTube that need more money because there's a lot of smaller 200, 300,000 subscriber political channels that are either right-leaning or libertarian that he helps out by giving them because he created a network. He actually when a lot of the stuff in the Young Turks were under criticism and YouTube was under criticism under favoritism of them, and then it came out about them having an independent ad sales team and setting up a network and all these other things, and their membership business model became more publicly known. Crowder and a couple of other people started actually following that business model and also following what DeFranco's doing with Rogue Rocket. And there are other people who are coming up with independent business models outside of YouTube. I believe Tim Pool is doing some stuff, but I still think he's over leveraged in YouTube and he was over leveraged in Patreon. And now I think he's on Subscribestar. There was a platform that Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris were working on that was supposed to be a Patreon alternative that was supposed to roll out in the end of January, early February. And guess what? It's June and not a blip on the radar about that because they ran into the actual problems of running a business and building a technology platform. And then the politicking of working with payment processors like the credit card companies and the banks and the payment processors and Stripe and PayPal and Venmo and all these, like, it's very complicated both legally and politically when you're talking about money in the banking systems and what they want to be associated with in terms of headlines. And they have very risk adverse criteria because when you want to talk about risk assessment, they actually do it. They actually own that field. So like, it's this weird, complicated thing where if you really want to be independent and have a voice and free speech, you have to some extent, not take money from people. Like, you can take money from your customers because then it's you and the customer, or you and the viewer. Like, but if you take somebody's money, you're essentially an employee. Like, even in your own business, if you take investor money, you're an employee. Yeah. Like, for real. Like, which is why if you're a publicly traded company, that's dangerous too. It's why I made a decision recently. I was talking to friends of mine with every business venture I do. If a company that I am doing ever goes public, I'm just selling it and keeping shares. I'm not going to be involved. I'm not going to run it. I'm not going to be CEO or whatever. I'm going to leave and just have shares or just sell it because I'm not going to be involved in a publicly traded company because I'm not going to be leveraged by shareholders. I'm not going to be answerable to shareholders. I'm not going to be their errand boy. So I think shareholder interest and corporate interest and not being in alignment with advertisers is the single biggest threat right now, besides chasing views or whatever, to creators keeping their voice and keeping their independence and their freedom. That's what scares me, is that the politics overshadows the money conversation, which is the deciding factor for how YouTube figures out what it does. And they're leveraged by the advertisers who are leveraged by the media.
Like, shareholders literally have a lot of power, more power than we know on the social media that we use. Like, even Twitter, like they're going through a ton of different changes right now because their shareholders want them to be more like Instagram. And, you know, Facebook, they want to be more like Snapchat. They ended up killing Snapchat. That worked. But like, these shareholders have more that mind you don't know how social media really works.
Don't care about
impact on social media than people give them credit for.
They don't care about the culture. They don't care about the consumer. They don't care about the consumer.
No, all they care about the money. Even Apple.
Exactly.
Yeah, even Apple. Apple doesn't listen to us. Like, no. I mean, you saw it. Like, I mean, like, you know, I mean, I think they're trying sometimes, but like then they do another thing and I'm like, really? Like, I see the iPad Pro stuff and I'm like, yeah. And then they do something and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, shareholders.
The mouse support is cool though, but we're not going to
cool.
do tech stuff.
Yep. But I think we're going to end this here because, like Paul said, this could go on forever and ever, man. Thank you,
Viper,
guys.
what would you do?
Oh, what would I do? Oh, God.
All things considered.
Damn, that is. Like I said, I really think for this particular situation, I think YouTube could have nipped this in the bud early if they would have just do whatever sanctions or whatever on Crowder's channel without deplatforming him. But like Paul said, that wouldn't have been enough for the Vox people anyway. But nothing could be enough for the Vox people. Like, they are out for blood. Nothing could be enough. But I think if they would have did something earlier in the process, this wouldn't be where it is today.
But then that goes with the same problem of YouTube going too fast.
Yeah, we end up in this weird situation. It's like Game of Thrones. So do you bend the knee and then just deal with what happens from bending the knee and bending to the pressure? In this case, the pressure of okay, if we have to throw a handful of creators under the bus to not have the media slaughter our business and slaughter the other innocent creators, do we do that? And do we bend the knee? Or if we're YouTube, does YouTube bend the knee to the Dragon Queen of media? Or do you stand up and risk the dragon fire? It's ugh.
Well, when this thing first came to a head, there was a lot of backlash on Twitter for people on Carlos's side because they felt like Steven was being insensitive and things like that. And I feel like at that point, YouTube should have just stepped in, demonetized the channel or gave them a strike.
Videos that were affected.
Right.
But if they did that, the thing is, the Vox people and those supporters were out for blood. They were out to cancel Crowder. That's not going to be enough for those people. Those when they go hard,
But right, like you said, that's not enough for them. But when YouTube said that nothing that he did violates our guidelines, that's where they messed up. They messed up. Even though it's right, they still messed up.
So that's an employee training issue because I don't think YouTube should ever say that.
Well, that's another matter entirely.
That's a training, but for real though.
What do you mean?
I would never publicly acknowledge or confirm or deny whether a content creator violated policy or not.
100%.
It sets precedent in the speculation, and then it lets you be vulnerable to saying you cherry pick or whatever. That would all be disclosed through private emails that are then marked as this is private and all the communications and blah, 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 and they can't leak it. And because I would have all the legal disclaimer, and if they leak it, they're vulnerable to being sued. And then I would sue the shit out of them. And then that sets a precedent to where nobody ever leaks emails that come from YouTube and Google because they realize the company will litigate the shit out of you, litigate you literally into the homeless shelter, and that will be that. And that's ruthless, but that's how I play the game. I play for keeps, so hashtag lawyer up.
But yeah, other than that, I don't know what else.
So you see what I'm saying though?
Yeah, but other than what I just said, I don't know what else YouTube could have did differently. I mean,
yeah.
I guess this thing was
a controversial comedian. That's the big problem.
But but the problem, Paul, is he's not the only one. No,
I know. If they're gonna strike him down, they got to strike everyone else down, and
not everyone else. Not everyone else. Think about it. It's not everybody else because they can nuance, and you can justify. You're the company. You can justify whatever you want, but
of course. But they should.
But I'm saying, just again, being ruthless, playing devil's advocate here. A lot of people don't realize. I play devil's advocate. It's not even about what I want. It's about what makes sense, or if oh, you could do this, and the thing is, theoretically, it's not everybody because everyone makes that argument, and that argument becomes a straw man because it's you could easily kind of confirm who the media has it out for or profile who is a vulnerable media target, who's a soft target. Then you could literally weigh how much money they bring you in. And then you could literally just start putting together kind of categories of who's moderately safe, who's totally safe, who's persona non grata, so that if they come for that person, you already know who you're going to jettison, who you're going to throw under the bus to save the whole farm because they're not worth enough money. And that's not fair. And that's totally ruthless. But I'm saying if you're going to play the game and you want to protect 99% of your money and you want to protect 99% of your creators, you could find the 1% of problematic people. And then of that 1%, you could probably figure out the Thanos snap for the half that you keep and be okay.
Would you be able to quickly name drop a few channels that you would think would be more in the middle and would be perfectly fine for YouTube to keep? Because like you keep saying that there's a lot, and the centerist channels are the ones who keep getting hurt. Like, what channels are you referring to?
There are a lot of like,
because I'd even say Philip DeFranco is probably more on the left side. I mean, he's centering a lot of things.
He's more libertarian.
Yeah,
he's more libertarian. Like, he's socially liberal, but he's like not fully socially liberal, and he's also very fiscally.
But he doesn't really give his opinion all the time.
But when he has, and you can like look at, it's like he's, you know, he's much more down the middle than people think. So is Boogie. Like, and
I think it depends on the subjects.
That's my point. But that's also my point.
Everyone kind of right now, there is no like, this is this party, this is this party, and we all kind of like, this is center, this is.
Well, there are some people who, you know, like, there are some people who are, you could almost say, are ultra left, like very much people that are very like Bernie bro people, like Jimmy Dore, for example, and a lot of other people at the Young Turks. You know, there are like weirdly, like on a lot of issues, ironically, you could say that Peterson is like more center right, but he associates with people that are a little further down the road than him. But he also associates with people that are on the opposite spectrum from him, like Sam Harris. So you have that, and then you have a lot of the skeptic community, and you have a lot of the atheist community, and they get thrown under the bus. So like those are people that are different. But then on the extreme sides, you have the extreme like left people, and then you have like other people much more far right leaning or alt right leaning, and people like the identitarians, like, which is a whole nother weird thing. You know, people who want like a safe ethno state for their people or something, like some weird stuff like that. But like, or anti-immigrant or whatever, like that's like a very like being to the point earlier of like the nuance of conversation, saying multiculturalism is fine or cool, or there's not a problem with it, is very different than being anti-multiculturalism, meaning even if they're opposite spectrums, there's one that is very much more visceral in terms of the reaction that a very normal or middle of the road person is going to be like, that sounds bad, versus that doesn't sound bad, that does sound bad. And it's not saying that this thing is good, it's saying this thing doesn't sound bad. Saying, multiculturalism is fine, it's like, that's like a, you know, whatever. Saying, I don't like multiculturalism, or multiculturalism is the problem, that's very much a, hey, slow down there. Like, what are you saying? Or like, I don't know if I want to hang out with you, or I don't know if I'm inviting you to the birthday parties or bar mitzvahs anymore. Like, that's a weird, like, you see what I'm saying? It's like, you could say one thing is this opinion or that opinion, but that doesn't make them equal in the way that people react to or feel about them, or the way that they associate language. And that's why outside of the US, interestingly, like outside the US, people are very finicky about precise language. I mean, you know, in Japan, there's literally all these things like honorifics, and there's like multiple words for the same thing, but they mean something in context very differently. Like, precise language is this huge thing. And I hate to say it, but over here, we're kind of lazy with our language sometimes. Like, people, like, the way that we interpret like things, or the way we use words sometimes, is just kind of lazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, this is a crazy situation, and I think I'm in the camp with Paul. This is probably not the last time this year we're going to be talking about something like this. I'm guessing we're going to go through this a few more times before the end of 2019.
I think the algorithm is going to be screwed again. So, yay.
Yeah, I like, honestly, with this whole stuff, like, I'm trying to rework how I want to do things. Like, and Roberto knows that, but like, we're screwed.
You guys want a Friday night, like, well, it's not Friday night, but you guys want a Viper exclusive on some like interesting data?
Sure, go for it.
I found a pattern in terms of the correlation between channels that hit 1K, 10K, well, like, not 1K, but like that hit 10K, 100K, a million. And like almost every time I plug in this data, it's accurate. Like, I found something interesting. The problem is it's something that's very hard to do or to control. But I'll tell you this, subscribers aren't a correlation to views, but views are a correlation to subscribers.
Yeah.
And I found the threshold in the ratio. I found the ratio of, so I like, Paul, do me a quick favor real quick. You got Social Blade open in a tab?
Sure, I can go for Social Blade.
So think of a channel you know that is right at 1 million subscribers or about to hit 1 million subscribers, and I'm going to tell you roughly if they're right at 1 million or just hit 1 million. I'm going to give you a range of what their view count might be without looking, and don't tell me the channel. Okay, if they're like right at 1 million or about to hit 1 million.
So okay, let me see. I don't follow people's subscriber accounts. 1 sec. I think there's this guy's going to hit. Darn it, 1.5.
All right, if he's at 1.5, I'm going to tell you that he has probably between. All right, so if he's at 1.5 million, I almost guarantee you he has no less than 120 million to 200 million lifetime views. He has no less than that.
Let me check views. You said
lifetime views.
You said 120 million to what?
To 200 minimum, as a minimum.
He has 174 million.
Right there, right there. I told you. Like, I told you. So like, yeah. So like, I figured it out.
Okay, can I find another one? I want to see how good.
Yeah, go plug in another channel that's like right around 1 million, and you'll see that it's gonna be like between 120 million to 200 for you to get to 1 million subscribers in terms of views. Like, this is sick. Like, when I was talking to a friend about, is there a way for me to use the YouTube API to make a calculator to scrub this data, or to make a sorting thing to where I can like see patterns like this and see like, all right, give me the lifetime view count for this many channels between blah, 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 blah. Like I'm trying to figure out if I had to, I would I might literally hire someone overseas to do this research and put it into a damn spreadsheet. I'm not joking.
Okay.
But this is sick.
Okay, I have one more open. I want to try another one. Let's see, I think you might be above. I'm trying to find a couple different niches too to see how it.
Yeah, it's across niches, brother. It's a thing.
Per million. Okay, so let's start with this one. So this one has 950,000. So
950,000. I'm telling you, they probably have just under. If they're almost at 1 million, they have just under 100 million views, but they have no less than 80 million for sure views. How much views?
99 million views. You said just under.
Yeah.
How, dude? That's insane.
I figured it out. I'm telling you, I don't play. This is what I do, man. This is what I do all day. Everyone wants to tell me I don't know shit about the algorithm because you're not viral, or you don't have 1 million subscribers, or you get this many views per upload. I'm telling you, all I do is pattern recognition.
So basically what we learned here tonight is the Amazon subscriber just try to go get as many views as you can, and then the subscriber will come.
Well, the problem is that if they don't actually get a connection to your videos, there's no point, which is the problem that a lot of people are going through.
Which is why you'll notice that there's no accounting for how many uploads it takes to get that many views.
Right.
But there's no amount of quantity that guarantees it.
But the more views you get, the more chances you give yourself to get that subscriber, though.
Because of something we learned in sales and marketing. Because you know what that ratio is that I came up with?
What's that?
1 to 2%. 1 to 2% conversion rate. You'll notice that basically what I'm getting at is that one subscriber, roughly one subscriber for every 100 to 200 views, which means 1 to 2%.
That sounds about right. Let me
or sorry, yeah. So
can I do that calculation on my channel hypothetically?
Yeah, I'm also going to look at this too real quick.
So I have found
there's
a couple
different range. By the way,
range.
To go to 10,000 subscribers, there's a slightly different range.
Okay.
But you'll notice that your bump is somewhat proportionate to you going viral.
Okay. So there's a couple different channels that are going to be slightly different, because there's the James Marriotts who only have 40 million views and have almost 1 million, but
Yes, that is
He's extremely charismatic, so like he gets that upper hand.
Yes, those are outliers. Those are outliers, but like I ran this on, I need to make a spreadsheet because I ran this on like 100 channels. Like I'll tell you something about your channel, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
On your PewDiePie video, did that video by itself roughly produce 1,000 to 1,500 subscribers for you just for that video?
It was closer to 2,000, but yeah.
Which means that if it's closer to 2,000 and you got 250,000 views on that?
Actually, I think it's at 350,000 now.
So it's just shy of, or it's actually, or like, so it's roughly around, it's almost like 1% or so for you. It's like, or it's just right around or under that. Like for the amount of views that you got, especially in its heyday of that video, because you might have got some repeat views on that, but like,
yeah.
But like when that video hit and that video was popping, you got about 2,000 subscribers for getting 250,000 views. So like it all makes sense. Like so, like for you to get to, how close is your lifetime view count to you hitting 1.5 million views lifetime?
I'm at just about 900,000 views.
I think that when you hit 1.5 million to 2 million views, you'll be at 10,000 subscribers.
Roberto, you're a genius, man, because I'm calculating right around, I'm a little above, my ratio is a little bit above 1%. So you're right, man.
I'm telling you, like, it's like, now there are outliers where it can be a little less. There's outliers where it obviously can be a little less. And there's ones where it'll be slightly better. But it's like, I'm looking at, and I'm like, oh my God. Now, again, the cutoff for where then exponential gains happen is after the million mark, because after the million mark, all bets are off. Like, because then there's just, whatever. And there are outliers based on some levels of natural charisma or subject affinity or subject dominance where there's like nobody competing in that market, or you were first to market, or you did a format that hadn't been thought of, or a combo that hadn't been thought of. There's little outlier things, shout outs, blah, 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 blah. But majority, if you're grinding, this is the answer. This is the answer. Is cumulative lifetime channel views, not even individual videos, just lifetime channel views, which means if you can hack bangers and get the most views out of bangers, go for it. But if it's quantity, play that game. Me and Jared Polin did that. Like Jared Polin had to make 3,000 videos to get to 1 million. I've done like 1,300, and I'm almost halfway there. Like it just depends on how many of your videos can get traction and how many of those videos can you get that have like 1 million that keep churning things in?
But here's my problem that I'm currently going through is like, so my PewDiePie videos blow up. I like this past one got 100,000 views. I got like 600 subscribers overnight, which is cool. But the problem is that it doesn't convert to new views. My channel still gets the same amount and videos don't pop.
Subscribers don't drive views. Views drive subscribers.
But the problem is like, how do I get more views if people don't care outside of the viral?
Because it's caring about the topic versus you, and it's positioning for virality. Because even with that, Mr. Beast is not himself a character for the most part in most of his own content. Yeah. And none of his content is even remotely related to each other. He just goes for weird interest content. He still and that's why, because the thing is, to get the amount of subscribers he gets on a daily basis, like it's not off of subscriber loyalty. He's getting new market share every fucking day off of, again, just weird shit that you would click out of curiosity. And that's what I like. And I looked at my videos that did the most subscribers for me that got like, oh wow, this video got 100. Like there are videos that have gotten much higher ratios on. There are videos that have gotten much higher ratios. Like for me, if I can get a video to get 100,000 views, I can get like 5,000 subscribers out of that instead of 1,000 subscribers out of that. Like there are videos that can do that for me. And so there's videos that I've gotten 100,000 on that got me like 10,000. Like my 1 million subscriber plus video got me like about 12,000. So like some of it is also topic leverage, and also topic leverage where you haven't already tapped into the people that would subscribe. Like, so it's a market share game, just like Apple and Samsung are fighting for market share. It's partly every one of your videos. It'd be nice to have subscribers watch your videos. The problem with subscribers watching your videos is you're not acquiring new market share. It's great for your views, but those non-subscribed views being so high is what gets you some more subscribers because you're getting new market share.
Yeah.
And the good news about subscribers watching stuff is if the subscribers watch stuff and they share it, you get more momentum and you get more exposure to new market share. That's part of the upside. Also, the velocity of YouTube pushing your content more so it can go more impressions to then get more views, higher click-through rates, all of that. So like if views are the game to everything now and views create your subscriber funnel, you have to maximize click-through rate. Click-through rate has 4 dependency factors. Remember this: topic, title, thumbnail, and timing. You have been suffering the victimization of timing on some of the topical, trendy things when you were doing the whole beauty dramageddon thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that was, there was no way to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
And you're a one-man
the
band.
T-Series stuff, like I was one of the first people to, report on.
Oh, yeah. And there was ways for you to pre-package some of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like seriously, the recent one I had ready. I just posted it that morning.
You need to focus, I think, on your bottleneck is you make some of the most banging thumbnails in the game. Paul Viper, doesn't he make some of the most banging thumbnails in the game?
I call him a thumbnail genie, man.
He is. And you're in the culture. I think you can come up with titles, and you're in the culture, so you got topics down. Your bottleneck is timing. You need to figure out topics that you have the fastest turnaround on for your editing style. And you need to find things that when you're not working on a video that you can start pre-packaging in edits that make sense for almost anything you want to do. That's where meme culture comes in your favor. And you also need to figure out things that people don't get tired of, because that will help you too. Because then you can farm views. Because right now you're hunting views. You need to hunt and farm, dude. You need to hunt and farm.
Okay. Could you elaborate on what you mean by farm?
Hunting is when you try to jump on a viral trend. Farming is when you make evergreen content that people are hungry for because they want deep. So like your farming is when you can do something that it's a good example of like someone who's really good at not having to always get ahead of something, but can farm off of it. The animation story time channels. Like when Andre T, I forget how to pronounce his last name. You know who I'm talking about.
I love that channel.
Okay, so he doesn't always get in on something like right away because animation's hard.
Yeah.
But like he can go back and he can always farm Logan Paul for content. He can always farm Jake Paul for content. He can always farm certain topics in the community.
You mean new videos or old ones
or topics again that stay things that stay relevant in the community is you could always talk about demonetization and get views. You can always talk about You can always talk about copyright and fair use and get views. You can always talk about Casey Neistat, even if he's not doing anything new. You can always make a video about people copying Casey Neistat. You can always talk about YouTube being dead and get views. You can always talk about no one wants to, but you can always talk about Onision and get views. I
don't know much about him. That was kind of before me.
I don't know that much about him besides the fact that I think he used to make anime meme references to Death Note is the thing that I think I saw thumbnails on. And he's in some copyright war. I don't know. I just know.
I don't know. Yeah, I just remember being young and seeing him as the edgy controversial.
He's like the most hated guy on the platform as far as I know.
He's still gaining subscribers though, which kind of shocks me.
There's an audience for anything. There's an audience for anything, and that's the point. You can always talk about iDubbbz and content cop and get views. You can always talk about the legend of Filthy Frank and get views because there are people who miss Filthy Frank. You can talk about. There's
so but really like the origin story, like that kind of stuff is evergreen.
Yes, your origin story stuff is evergreen. You just have to talk about somebody in origin story who's still massively relevant that people want to know more about. That might have some
that Mr. Beast, PewDiePie.
Exactly. Exactly. The top tier. Like the top tier people want and hunger to know more about people who are like the biggest people in the platform, and they're just like the Kardashians, love them or hate them, like they're a headline. You can always farm that in the mainstream media or even social media for views, because they're also social media rock stars too. You can always farm Kanye for views, right? Jay-Z just became a billionaire. Everybody can write about that. So there's always
but like by the time a story like that is like happened, by the time I get a video on, it's over.
It's about the way you approach it versus it's about if you make it not about the headline, but you make it about what the headline didn't say. Because again, a fan of Jay-Z always wants to know if somebody's hating on him. You know what I'm saying? Because then they want to come in and put hands on people. So there's that part of it. That's why some people clickbait those things. And that's that's one of the strategic things of subverting expectations, even with what the Rewired Soul did. A lot of times he would set up like he was going to go negative on somebody, but then it's actually him defending somebody. Like that is a subversion of expectations.
But also he was able to get things out like that. And that's also kind of hurting him right now because he grew such a diverse viewer base. And then also with him being canceled, he's suffering from extreme subscriber burn right now.
He is, but it can be rebounded because all it takes is the algorithm saying yes to one thing.
I know, and it's not right now because people aren't clicking on his videos because he's been canceled.
So click-through rate is his bad downside is click-through rate. His bad side is click-through rate, but also his channel cluster. Because the problem is when people made videos about him, it redefined his channel cluster. But if those people aren't getting views on those videos, there will be a purge eventually. There's always a cycle. So the thing is, I think he's on the way out of that end of the cycle algorithmically. It's why even talking about the whole Crowder thing, this in itself, even if YouTube doesn't negatively do something with the algorithm, people are going to negatively impact the algorithm in an interesting way through user behavior, and they're going to taint the algorithm. And that's also going to lead to some demonetization for people that are completely innocent. You saw... And you remember this, Viper. Do you remember in the early days of the demonetization thing that even tech channels were getting hit with Marquez was hit, like most vanilla, clean stuff you could do. And it's so weird. And it's because of by association, because machines are not people. So they do these weird connections that you're like, how does that make sense? How is that? Or, oh, if I drill down long enough on the road of the dictionary, 6 degrees. Yeah, sure. So machine learning sucks and it's great and it sucks. Because we all benefit from it right now until we don't.
That's true.
All right. Yeah. Click-through rate, brother. Click-through rate. Click-through rate is everything right now. Click-through rate, average view duration. Get that right. Get on the right side of that view number. YouTube Viper. You've been putting out some banger thumbnails, dude. If you can get some timing and topics, Viper, and you can get your click-through rate up and you can get the lifetime views up, you will get more subscribers, dude. You got a 1% ratio, so you know what you got to do.
The big problem is FOMO. And with those topics that are evergreen, people don't have a need to click.
To an extent, unless you come up with a new angle or something. Or again, or if it's somebody who's going to have a news cycle again.
True. Because I'm just saying, my biggest problem is first hour, first 24 hour.
PewDiePie's forever.
True, yeah. But if people already know something, it's got to be served to the right people.
It's got to be served to the right people. Here's a good framework for evergreen topical content with a twist. Study harder what Matt Pat from Game Theory does. Really look at his titles, topics, his formats, his thumbnails, and his release cycles, and how he taps into communities. Because the other thing is, if you can't get on a trending topic, you got to hit up a community. Do you realize Game of Thrones rewinds are making the rounds right now that people are going back and binge watching old seasons? So Game of Thrones people are actually gaining after the series is over, just because there's 8 seasons of material for people to want to remember and like how people feel about it, how people talk about it, and like what comes next for these actors, and like people are and people wanting to do fan fiction around it now and go, oh, and like waiting for the prequels and waiting this late. How's the book's going to be different? And like, you know, like there's so all of a sudden that's a thing. Star Wars is polarizing community is actually like, it's weird to see like the Star Wars haters channels. It's like it could go either way for them, because the thing is, people are actually starting to feel optimistic about episode 9. People are actually like, oh crap, we're getting an Old Republic trilogy. People and the new game, Jedi Fallen Order, I saw the trailer and the gameplay. I'm like, I don't care. I'm buying it. Like, I'm done. I mean, like, people are excited about Star Wars again all of a sudden. So those people are having to tread a little carefully. But they do have a culture and a community of their own too. So like they can go either way on that. They can either double down on what they have and just maintain solid views, but maybe not get new market share, or they can go agnostic and go, oh, well, let's see what happens. Or here's what I do like, here's what I don't like, and play to, hey, whatever you like is okay with me. Just keep it classy. Like they could go that route. So like you have to figure out, if you can't leverage a topic, dude, and there's like FOMO, you have to tap into a community that wants to just hang with each other and have something to congregate around.
Yeah, cool.
A community of people who want to congregate around something. You know, that's what's great about your stuff, Viper, is that you're a leader in the community.
Yeah, he is. Like I should probably just lay off a little bit on like just news.
Community, man.
I don't know if I call myself a leader in the community, but I do all right.
Well, I mean, when I say that, I mean it's like
you get heavy hitters talking about you, and that's important. And people know who you are.
Like there's never been, in my experience, a YouTuber under 10,000 subscribers that is as networked up as you and has as many big people in Twitter following them and have come on their streams and collab with them. It's not precedented, Viper. Like, people are sleeping on you and people give you shit about clout chasing and this and that.
Yeah.
But you created a community format. Like, do you realize that, like, dude, do you realize how hard it is to get me on a live stream, and that you've gotten me on more live streams than any content creator, any company, like,
combined
IQ, and these people freaking pay me to be on live streams, dude. And I'm here with you more than I am with everybody combined. Like, that don't just happen, dude. Same thing for Prosser and all these, we all show up for Viper. We all show up for this community. We all show up for the panel. You're the only one doing it, man. You're the only one. Nobody else.
No doubt. I appreciate all of you all. Y'all are great, man.
But you're great. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's like, that's not an accident, dude. Don't downplay yourself. Don't let the haters tell you nothing. Like, nobody's doing it, man. Like, nobody, like, and the thing is, it's like, people could have, like, you know, like, but they don't have that X factor that, like, and I don't have any reason. I don't have any reason to blow smoke or to flatter you. Like, I don't have a reason. Like, I don't have anything to gain.
No.
Like, I have literally, like, nothing to. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my lamp because I don't like this lighting. Like, I have nothing to gain by saying or doing that. Like, nothing. So, like, it's just the truth.
No, it's just like you said, like, you could be doing other live streams that you get paid for, but you don't get paid to be here. You just show up, because that's cool.
Yeah. Like, I put off final edit on a video to come talk to y'all about this, because, like, I love what you do, Viper, and I respect you, and I like that you created a forum for a discussion like this. Like, and it's a reasonable one, because, like, we're not claiming to know everything, or like, oh, it should be this, it should be, like, we're talking it out.
Yeah.
I love Paul is one of the most intelligent people of his generation that I think I've ever met.
No doubt. That's why I had to have him with me tonight, man. I'm like, I need Paul tonight. I'm like, Paul, come join me, bro.
I think Paul has a promising future as a leader in commentary, because the thing is, he respects creators, he He respects hearing both sides of a story instead of framing a conclusion. And I like the way that, like, with Paul, he lets people make up their mind instead of telling them what to think.
Mhm.
Good.
Which I think that there's way too much commentary. And I think part of, like, the trap is it's easy to tell people how things should be or what to think versus presenting them with information and with sides of a story and what you think and letting them make up their mind.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Paul. It's just interesting, like reading Paul's tweets and how like this is what he wanted. And now he's here getting it done. It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like
dude.
I like Paul, you can get the views, man, so you can grow. Like you can like, and for anybody watching this, that's because not everyone watching this is a content creator, but like if you guys go and you look at like, and I know people there because I'm looking at the chat, some people are like, still salty about like YouTube doing this or doing that. Like, I think, oh, hey, Andrew Cam's in the chat. Yeah, shares mean more than likes. Absolutely, Andrew.
Yeah, every video that is blown up for mine has at least a 10% CTR and has a lot of shares.
Numbers, man. The numbers matter. Like the deep dive in the analytics, it's more important. And the new YouTube analytics, I know people complain about that studio beta, but like
there's a lot in there.
There's so much. There's so much.
Just gotta get to it.
This is Tech Today. Yeah, Matt D'Avella is an outlier because, like I said, after you hit 1 million, and he had a video that got close to 10 million views. Like after you hit 1 million, some of the things change, and some of the things like Matt D'Avella was able to get to 1.5 million with less views, but he was also very, very specific in hitting a cultural topic around minimalism, and around consumerism and those things. So Matt D'Avella does represent an outlier. Matt D'Avella is doing something very interesting with the algorithm.
But he's becoming a channel cluster. So his recommended is easier because YouTube knows who to target.
It really does, but he also tapped into a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And minimalism is a cult. Like,
yeah.
So like just keep in mind that there are things that you can tap into that change these numbers, because the Rewired Soul got to 100,000 originally without getting to 10 million total lifetime views.
Mm-hmm.
Like he got to 100,000 without 10 million total lifetime views. He has about, I think, 8 million total lifetime views. But if he can get to about 1.5 million lifetime views, he'll be back at 100,000 subscribers, assuming that his viewer attrition or bleed doesn't exacerbate. Because the weird thing is he's actually gaining. He may not be net positive in Social Blade, but he's gaining in proportion to his losses, which means he's replacing subscribers, which means his
analytics.
His viewer association and clustering could reset, and it's just a matter of where he is in that cycle.
The big problem is he's not receiving a ton of new views from those new subscribers, and that I feel that same thing.
Or
like, even though I gained thousands from the PewDiePie,
or from a topical click.
Mm-hmm.
But if he either gets a viral video off of a news story that changes everything, or if he does like more Hulu, Netflix stuff, like Black Mirror just came out, because that got him originally his first 20K. If that hits for him because he taps into pop culture, TV shows, movies, all of a sudden.
Yeah, but he's being so diverse with his topic selection right now. And the big problem is because he had so many videos about influencers that it's like, because he has so like the same things with like when I had I removed all my Minecraft, my bazillion different things because it has all the data.
Yes,
exactly. Data. And he has so much data on these other
you did kind of a purge. Interestingly, so the thing is, he might need to give it time though, because YouTube sometimes does a weird thing to where 3 months later, here we found
That
these
was
videos.
with the Lily Singh video, which probably now will get me in trouble. So I don't know.
But you know what I'm saying? But like, but again, it could just like, you know, it's funny. I had a video that did very well, and then YouTube kind of killed it off for like 30, 45 days. And now YouTube's throwing that thing back. It's hilarious. But that's why I'm not necessarily for deleting poor performing videos just in case, if they are something or someone that could be that, or you don't know, or if it's search friendly, because you just, you know, all it takes is a spike.
Unless it's a different niche, I guess.
Unless it's like, yeah, unless it's a different niche that doesn't like help you. Like, so, and you need to clear the data. So like the thing is, anything could happen with that. I believe, I don't know, but I believe he's kind of swinging to see if something hits right now. And like, that's not the worst strategy. I mean, everybody does it at some point. So like, but subscribers don't guarantee views anymore. I'm trying to find the baseline, because YouTube won't tell us. I'm trying to find, and I'm having people share data with me. I'm trying to find a pattern to safely, because the problem is people don't want to experiment and like turn off the notify my subscribers thing. But for the few times it's happened, whether intentionally or accidentally, with people I know, I'm what's been documented in YouTube's history. Like, I have theories about the ratio of notifications. I'm asking and Team YouTube and like putting it out there, hey, tell us how many of our people are on notification squad. Tell us how many people are like in the new studio dashboard. That's my feature request, is tell that in bulk delete spam. Like empty spam is like the one I really want. Empty.
Nope. Time out. Before we got here, I got to correct Doug Houston. Actually, Doug, this has a lot to do with Vox, because this would not be where it is today if it wasn't for this do working for Vox. And Vox even put out a statement about this issue, so you know that had a role to play with what YouTube is doing, or what they did with Steven Crowder. So this has a lot to do with Vox. Don't act like Vox is innocent. Vox is not innocent. They are innocent.
Their media. The media is when someone goes after the advertisers. Someone goes after the advertisers. The media starts circling. Sharks smell of blood. Get that clickbait. Get that clickbait.
Vox is in this, dude. They're not innocent. They are deep in this.
You had a Vox employee, and Vox stood by their employee, and they helped elevate and magnify. Like, I mean, a lot of the retweets and the cycling, and that was other people at Vox.
Yep, there you go.
And the thing is, I'm not anti-Vox. Like, there's sometimes they do good work. The Verge does good work. Sometimes we know people who work for the Verge.
I mean, even Nilay Patel made a comment on Twitter about this. So yeah, this is deep.
This goes to the top. This goes to the top. But I also think that timing had something to do with it, because right now they can rally around. Was it Carlos is his name or something?
Yep.
Because it's like, I don't follow the dude, and I don't care. Like, I care about the platform. I care about the stuff. Like, and I care about bullying, and I care about, like, you know, being a good ally and all those things. But I also think that there's a point where now you're really just playing dirty pool if you're just going to go in after advertisers and say deplatform somebody and take away people's livelihoods and hurt employees and attack YouTube. If YouTube doesn't do this, then this means this. If YouTube doesn't do what I want, it means that they don't support us. If YouTube doesn't do what I want, there's like it becomes a us versus them thing very quickly, and that's a slippery slope to what Paul was saying, and that I don't feel good about that. No one should feel good about that.
No, Doug. Yeah. Carlos is definitely the one stirring the pot, but don't think that he doesn't have the backing of Vox.
Let me put it to you like this. This is the most controversial thing I think I'll say. YouTube is the only good guys in this situation, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's a statement. Okay.
Because they're just trying to run a fucking business.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that. I do feel bad for YouTube. You know.
They're the only people that I really feel the most sympathy for in this entire situation.
Yeah, but they kind of made
they can't do anything right,
though. Yeah, they kind of made it work for themselves with their initial handling of the situation, though. So they didn't do themselves any favors.
I don't know what YouTube could have done too much better, because if they went any faster, they would have been steamrolling.
Like
if they went any slower, they would have had problems too.
Like Roberto said earlier, why are you? Why are you tweeting PR stuff? Like, what are you doing? Like, that stuff shouldn't be on Twitter.
They
YouTube.
already, like, here's the thing. I guarantee you that stuff was drafted and it was ready to go, and they already had it on the schedule, and it was like automated or something. Like,
I'm sure it was.
I guarantee you that somebody like who had no idea about any of this, and somebody who's not in Twitter, somebody's just working their shift and doing this. Somebody's just working their shift. I'm telling you, like, anybody who's worked it as an employee just knows that they put on their headphones. I'm just getting to work today.
It's true though. It's true. It's true.
Oh no, you're right. Oh, you're right. He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right, man.
That's like, I mean, I'm saying, like, I know it's a big company, but you cannot expect that everybody that works at these companies is even invested in the culture or any of that, or like that even like. I mean, if I worked for a social media company, I probably wouldn't be on social media.
I mean, yeah, I feel that, but at this, like, you have to really, like, okay, so like on a slightly different subject, the person who runs the team YouTube account, I want to give them a hug. I feel really bad for them.
Well, it's multiple people, and they work in shifts, and they like it's multiple people. There's a team back end account where multiple people are logged in simultaneously at all times, and and it's because I like as a social media marketing person, I know all those tools and I know stuff like that. So so they got that going on, and it's like I feel like every day they're bombarded with why is my channel demonetized? Why didn't I qualify?
Why am I not monetized yet?
Like, it's like manual review, blah, 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 every day. Like, do you realize I have because I want to know what's wrong. Like, I have all of YouTube's accounts on notifications. I see so much. I'm like, oh dear God. I even intervene sometimes. Like,
yeah, Roberto be battling, man. He ain't lying. He be battling out there.
Because I'm trying to keep creators grounded. I'm trying to keep creators grounded and realistic, because the thing is, like, I'm protective of the future of the creator economy, because it can change anybody's life. It can change anybody's life to have opportunities they couldn't have had 15 years ago. And I don't want that to go sideways before it has a chance. Like, and I'm protective of that. And that's why I'm protective of the community. I'm protective of the culture, but I'm also protective of the platform, because we need the platform to survive no matter what. So like, I will sacrifice a lot on the altar. I'm not even a company man, and they don't pay me, and they don't but like there's a lot, like, and it's like, like there's a lot I disagree with, but at the end of the day, I will protect the platform, or I will be on the side of protecting the platform at almost all cost, just because I believe it's that important to do so. I believe it's that important. It's why, regardless of the political spectrum or whatever else, like, one of the lines in the sand is, if you're anti-technology, anti-Silicon Valley, anti-social media, and want to like break that stuff up or bring in regulations without just because you disagree with people politically, or you think they have an agenda or whatever, like, the technology has to be allowed to develop and progress. And if you need consumer protections, like the privacy stuff, I'm absolutely down. Like, or if people are getting hurt physically or sick or dying, like, I'm down, consumer protections, totally down. Punitive regulations because you think that they're too powerful or whatever. It's like the new world that they are creating is making individuals more powerful, because every one of us here on this panel has a voice we could have never had 10 years ago to fight back, or to stand for something, or to do something, or to have play an active role, or to rally community, or to have support in a way we could have never have. And I'm protective of that outcome for others,
man.
So we gotta stand on together. We gotta stand on, being, very much protective of that.
Paul, you were worried about your background earlier. Somebody likes your background, so you're in the building, bro. You're in the building. But on that note, we got to get out of here, y'all. We've been here long enough. Thank you all for everybody that joined in the live stream chat. Thank you for hanging out with us for a few hours. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you to my man Paul and my man Roberto for joining me on this lively chat. I mean, we got to do it again sometime, but y'all know where to find me. I'm here Friday, but y'all know what it is. But until the next time, people, this your boy Viper, the man about tech. You know where to find me. So come back for more.